Welcome to the 46th episode of the Adoption and Fostering Podcast. Adoption's answer to the Hello magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
It's just that. Well, hiya, Scott. Yeah, we've got a very special guest today. We've got the marvellous Becky.
Bride to be.
Suddenly Mummy, Becky, bride to be. Hello, Becky. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine, thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, you're more than fine. Come on.
Come on.
Oh, look at this. Sparkling finger. I was
Yes.
going to say sparkling ring, but I thought that might be inappropriate.
But can I be the first to congratulate you on what is marvellous news?
Yeah, well, you can't be the first because other people have already congratulated me, but you can be one of the people. Yes, thank you.
The first out of me and him, Scott.
First, no, because Scott messaged me earlier.
Oh. Yeah, but I said it in person.
Sorry, bud.
Actually, I was first, so
Well,
I've lost two. Anyway.
Suddenly your dearth of blogs makes perfect sense. The silence on Twitter all comes into focus, and now we see that your life has taken a turn that wasn't perhaps anticipated when you did the Queen's speech at the beginning of the year. And now look at you.
I know.
Yeah, that was. Yeah,
How things have
right
changed.
now, yeah, it's
Right.
cool.
So ask us.
It is cool. And do you know what? I'm so happy for you because, you know, having kind of worked alongside you for, 2 years now?
Gosh.
And
Neil,
and you, well, it's probably a little bit longer actually, but I always remember one of the first conversations we had when we met up for one of the first times, and because then I realised who you were, and we were talking about you being single. You're like, yeah, never been married, got no intention to get married, and then 2 years later, here you are. So
We can all testify to the love of a good man.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm confused.
I can, but you can do what you like.
I'm really confused. So, have you set a date? More importantly, how did he ask? How did he ask? Tell me. How did he ask?
Oh my God, you've gone all girly.
Oh, I'm literally just.
Can I just say, when I've told female friends of mine this story, there has been screaming has occurred.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so I'll
mute
tell
your
you.
microphone, mate.
Yeah.
Mute your microphone.
I'll
with the
cut
group.
it short because it's a relatively long story. But on Saturday, the theatre group that he helps to run, that my son goes to, had its summer show.
Mm-hmm. We like him already.
And which I was attending, obviously, to see my son be in it and everything. And it was a bit touch and go because my daughter was admitted to hospital the day before. And so I was sending texts going, I don't think we're going to make it, all of this. And he was being really cool. Oh, just text me if you can get out. Just let me know if you come in. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, long story short, the volunteer leaders did a skit as part of the show. And as part of the skit, he comes on the stage wearing a T-shirt that says, Becky, will you marry me, on the front of it.
No.
Really?
How many people were there? Tell me everything.
Probably about 100 people.
Oh no.
Nice. No pressure then. Yeah.
No.
He was confident. He's a confident dude.
Yeah,
Confident
he's a
man.
guy. And so he proposed to me on the stage in front of all the audience. And then I was sitting at the back because my daughter was wrecking the place.
You were on Twitter. Missed it.
So then I had to come all the way down past all the people to get down on one knee. He got down on one knee and proposed to me. And I said, I think my exact words were, in a kind of stage whisper, I said, no public proposals. Then I said yes.
Oh
No.
well,
But actually, I will say this because the thought of being proposed to publicly was mortifying for me. But actually, it was fun. It was fine. I liked it. So no one needs to worry on my behalf. It was a bit breathtaking, but yeah, it was nice. And you see, what it does then, it saves me the job of having to tell all of those people because they all saw it.
Boom.
That was nice.
See, already he's just a top guy. He worked that all out, hadn't he?
Well, he'd spent quite a while getting this ready, getting the ring, getting the T-shirt sorted out, writing the skits that this was all going to be part of. And then, of course, at like 4 p.m, I was texting him going, I don't think we're going to make it. We're still in the hospital. I don't think they're going to let us out. They were having a massive kit. They were like freaking out, apparently.
So he was on the phone to
it
the doctors and everything. Oh, well, that's really good news. So when are you getting it? When's it all going to happen? When's the big hoo-ha?
We're thinking we've got a complex Venn diagram of interlocking things that need to occur.
I'll explain that to Scott later.
But we think perhaps it probably in the spring sometime.
I love a spring wedding. I can wear my powder blue tuxedo.
Over your comment there, Mr. Coates. I know what a Venn diagram is. Thank you very much.
Oh, whatever.
I could swear I would.
I've heard you can. So what are you going to wear, Scott? I'm going to wear my pink tuxedo with ruff. Not powder blue,
apparently
maybe.
Apparently we're only getting virtual invites. That's what I read.
Oh.
Virtual.
I'm working very hard to try and keep the entire thing down to about 4 people.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
I've failed. I've already failed. There are apparently apps. You can get apps that do that. There are websites. You can set up websites and plan it all. Yeah, it's going to be hilarious.
So, right, I suppose it's a fostering and adoption.
Does that mean we have to get... but that's a good question, actually. So if we're virtually invited, does that mean we get you a virtual gift?
Yeah,
Boom.
that definitely.
Boom. He's on fire.
Boom. Yeah.
Boom.
So basically, we'll get together that weekend. I'll get drunk with Paula, and that'll be her virtual gift.
Yeah, a photograph of you on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Again.
Oh,
dear.
There goes your professional identity. What was left of it? So the question for me is, because I was thinking, right, if I was your supervising social worker, I'd have so many questions. So is that all that kind of end of stuff? Is that all going okay? And are the children okay? How have you broke it to them apart from the fact they were told in public?
They didn't get it though. They didn't get it. We set off home, and my son said to me, "So are you married now?"
Oh,
well, that was it.
Like, oh,
is he my new daddy now?
That's not how it works, Jake. No, I funny because I've often thought about blogging. Some sort of. I feel like being a single adoptive parent and then meeting someone, that might be something that would be blog worthy. And maybe I might have some top tips to share, but I don't. I haven't got any top tips to share.
No top tips?
Really, because first of all, I've broken my own rules. Like, rules that I imagined in my head, which was like, they wouldn't meet the children for ages. And I'm like, well, he already knew them before he knew me.
Very sensible rules.
Yeah, but I've broken them. But it sort of I don't know, they love him. More than me, possibly.
Oh, problematic. So it's a whole new set of...
Today. We took the kids to the cinema today, and they watched the entire film on his knee, and I was just like sitting 4 seats away on my own. We'd taken up 4 seats, and then the middle 2 seats just emptied of children. They all gravitated over there looking for... Yeah, so I watched the film in relative comfort. I don't think he saw any of the film, to be fair.
Oh,
it gives you rest by then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's nice. And there are things like, oh, gosh, we've run out of dishwasher tablets. Oh, I'll nip out and buy some. Oh, wow, this is a brave new world. Look at that.
Freedom.
Which I know sounds like a small thing, but it's not. For me, that's like, oh, no, I've run out of a thing. Then we won't have that thing until I can get to the shops again then.
Yeah.
So those are nice things.
Nice things. Oh, that's all really good.
I mean, more to it than that, but
Yeah, there
is a practical side to it, isn't there? There is a practical side to it.
Oh, yeah, it's right.
It's like that film, Jerry Maguire, You Had Me at Dishwasher Tablet.
So who's got the music playing now, Mr. Cole?
That's not me.
No, it's beautiful music. I think we should go with it. I think it's a nice new theme. I hope it's not copyrighted because, no, it's probably someone. That's the end of my wholesome holiday. Oh, well, that's really good. But do you know, I had this really bizarre experience about 2 weeks ago, and it involves you, Becky. I was taking the kids to school, and I dropped them off, and I got in the car, and I turned off Capital, which is like mind rot music. And so I put the radio on, and I thought, hell's teeth, that's Becky on Radio 4. And I had to kind of do a double take thinking, have I fallen into some sort of podcast kind of vortex where I'm hearing your voice in strange places? But you were on Radio 4 and I was so impressed. Come on, tell me, what was it like being on Radio 4?
Yeah, that was quite funny because there was this possibility that we could do the Today programme, and I was meant to be going to London for Adoption UK's parliamentary launch of the Bridging the Gap report, and I'd already bought tickets for train at 5:05 in the morning.
Ooh, harsh.
Because they were really cheap.
Yep.
Like I could have gone an hour later, but it would have been 5 times the price. I just couldn't stand it.
Okay,
So I booked the tickets for 5:05, and I was due to arrive at 7:30. And then there was this whole finagle. Oh my word! Today program did want to run the story, and could I be in London at 6:30?
Yeah.
And no, I couldn't. And could I be in Salford at 6:30? And there was a whole thing. So in the end, they put us on a bit later, and it's very nice going to the BBC. They pick you up from the train station. You get a driver. They pick you up from the train station. They drive you through London to the studios, and it's all very nice. And then they took me into the green room, I suppose they call it. And people who know me will know that I am very bad with both names and faces. So
that's the worst possible combination.
Pull this stuff out of the green room.
I can tell you now that was a fantastic trait to have as a teacher. Oh yeah, hello 30 children.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen some of you before, but I spend an inordinate amount of my time having conversations with people that clearly I know them, but I can't remember the name. Anyway, this happens to me a lot. So I've gone into the green room and I've seen a person that I think I vaguely know. I look him at this guy stood with this woman and think I recognise you. I think I know you from somewhere. Anyway, thankfully, even though it was quite early, my brain sort of said to me, "This is the BBC. You don't know this person. It's probably a famous person,
like off the telly.
Try and place the famous person." And just as I was about to pour myself an orange juice, because of course he'd made eye contact, because I'd looked at him in that sort of "do I know you" kind of way. He turned around, he looked at me and he went, "Hi," like that, and it was Tony Blair.
Shut up!
No way!
Shut up!
It's Tony Blair, and you didn't. Oh my God,
Tony
woman!
Blair,
Seriously.
It took me a minute to work out who it was. So he said, "Hi, good morning," and I was like,
You meant to do something. Oh wow, that's amazing. Oh,
I just said, "Oh, good morning," got myself an orange juice. I was dying.
That's the best
and
showbiz story we've had.
They wheeled in John Howard, the former Prime Minister of Australia, who for some reason I did recognise straight away. I don't know why.
How did you recognise him?
Did you recognise?
I don't know. He had an Australian accent. I don't know. I knew it was.
So if we were to draw a Venn diagram, if we were to draw a Venn diagram of the people you would recognise, John Howard would be in the middle.
Yeah.
But your children,
Tony Blair, not so
your parents, maybe not so.
Yeah.
Very weird.
There was potential for humiliation there, but it went quite fine. And then you can see the studio where they're doing it. So you're sitting, you're just looking through a glass window, and you can see everything they do. And I've got to say, whatever people's views of the BBC, watching these people as individuals do their job was really fascinating, because I was there for maybe 3/4 of an hour. And in that time, they got Tony Blair in to talk about immigration or something. Then they had John Howard in to talk about a space program, possible space program. Then they had somebody coming in to do sports. Then they had John Pienaar come in and do some kind of political report. And then I went on and spoke about something else that's completely unrelated to any of the other things.
Like
and these people, they're just sitting in a cupboard. John Humphries it was, and Martha Carney. They're just sitting in a cupboard doing this, and all these people being wheeled in front of them, and they've got to ask sensible sounding questions. And I'm like, this report, they did it. Yeah, it was. They've not read the report. I mean, they couldn't have read the report in the time that they could have had it, and they've got to come up with questions. I know they've got researchers and people to brief them and all of that stuff, but I was quite impressed with the smooth way that it all worked and everything.
Did it remind you of the podcast and our smoothness?
Yeah, it was just the same, very similar, very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah, especially in the way that they all knew what time it was going to be at.
I'm having a breakdown.
Like me today, trying to do it at a made-up time of my own. At least I did that. I got there at the right time, so that was quite.
At least you remembered our names. Seriously. Well, we assume so.
Well, I was going to say, have you heard me say either of your names?
I've heard you say Al. I've not heard you say mine yet, but whatever. It's easy.
I think I'm having a breakdown.
So it was good fun. Martha Carney's got a kind face. Very kind. She was. I just thought you'd be a great teacher. She had a very kind face, very encouraging. And we had a good time. And then I finished that, and then they got me in a car and whisked me to Parliament. I tell you, it was like being the Queen.
La la, honestly.
I have learned so much. So the next Adoption UK conference, we should have we should bet money on playing Happy Families. You know the game where you turn over faces? Because you'll just never win it, will you?
That would be so funny. All the days.
Yeah.
Oh, you've just and do you know what you've just done, Al? You've just given me some really good ammunition for the next conference.
Yeah. Happy Families with Becky Suddenly Mummy.
Oh my days! Honestly, you have just given me a fantastic idea because last year we did the EasyJet skit. I feel
there you are.
I might need.
See?
Yeah.
There's a thing, I've discovered it on Twitter. I'd never heard of it before, but it's a thing where it's for I can't remember what it's called, but it's a condition where you don't have mind's eye.
Yeah.
You don't have a visual. You don't see things in your mind, and I don't.
Paul is like
I've got to try and remember who. I can't remember what anyone looks like ever because I can't picture them in my mind.
But does this impact on things like decorating? Because I'll say to Paula, we'll do that wall green, and she goes, champion, and I paint it green. She goes, oh, I don't like that. And I go, but I told you it would be green. She can't. She has no. And I'm colourblind, so I go.
I was going to say you're colourblind as well. So
and they're going to say you're colourblind. That can't help. But the other week, and this happens to me every time, I'll go to the DIY shop with a very firm idea of the exact shade of colour that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And this time I even took a thing that was the colour that I wanted and spent not hours, that's a total lie, 15 minutes maybe, looking at all the swatches to get the exact colour that I wanted, brought it home, put it on the wall, nothing like it. Is nothing like the colour I thought I wanted.
The mind is a cruel thing.
I'm holding the two colour swatches side by side in the shop and they're the same. And anyway, whatever, your listeners don't want to hear about this, my DIY failures.
Well, all I can say is... because we've really gone off subject here, but good luck, Mr. Suddenly Mummy.
Yeah. Can I tell you my DIY story? My DIY store story. It involves my child, and she's adopted. So that's right. So it was when she was little, and so it was Lottie, and she was really little. She was 3, and she was just nappy training, so she was just out of nappies. And I went to buy some screws. So I was looking at a pile of screws, and she was pottering on behind me. And as I was looking at the screws, a man walked behind me, and he gave me such a dirty look, and I thought, oh, how rude. And then looked at the screws, and I turned round, and as I turned round, Lottie was jumping off a toilet, pulling her knickers up, jump off, pull up your knickers.
I knew that was going there. I knew it was going
and
there.
And I looked, and she'd done a wee in the display toilet.
I can't blame her for that.
No, you can't.
No.
Did you have to clean it out with a mop?
Well, I went and found a young... then I was in a moral dilemma. Do I run? Or do I
would have run.
I would
have run.
You would have run. So I thought, well, I'll do the right thing. So I found a 12-year-old who was working there, and I said... and I told him the story, and he just looked like it was beyond anything he'd ever heard. And he literally froze in front of me. He went into some sort of trauma mode, and I said, just find me some, cleaning equipment. So he went off, bless him, and it was all fine in the end. Oh, happy days. Anyway, adoption. Tell me, right, because one of the reasons to get you on, other than to kind of giggle like schoolgirls, was to talk to you about the Equal Chance campaign. Tell me all about that.
Yeah. Well, oh gosh, I've got to sound like I've got to sound sensible now.
I'm just
going to leave at this point because I'm bored.
My life. Yeah, the Equal Chance campaign. We are, Adoption UK have been doing a lot of stuff around schools for a while, since before my time, actually, since 2016. The Equal Chance campaign is like a relaunch of that, really, to take stock of where we're up to with changes that we need in schools, because some good things have happened, some good things have come to pass. Pupil Premium Plus has just been increased, but we still need to work on making sure it gets spent on what it should be spent on, and we still need to make sure that children, everybody that should be getting it, is getting it. So that's one of the things that's included in the Equal Chance campaign, to press for someone to look at what we do with internationally adopted children, or children that are not eligible for PP Plus for whatever reason, and there are quite a few. They've extended virtual schools to cover adopted children. That'll start in September. They've created a role of designated teacher for previously looked after children. That will start in September. But again, there's a lot to be done there, I think, because I'm hearing of schools who've not heard anything about that, haven't got anyone enrolled for that for September yet, or not really sure what the role entails or how that's really going to work.
So how is that being communicated? Where does that come from? Central government about the virtual school heads?
Yeah, the DfE have done that. They passed legislation last year to create these roles, and they released a statutory guidance in February this year. So as far as designated teachers are concerned, I think it's mainly virtual schools are doing that work. So I've been involved in a lot of speaking to virtual school heads who are trying to get because in most schools, I think probably the designated teacher for looked after children that already exists would just be expected to add previously looked after children to their role. And so a lot of virtual school heads are getting the designated teachers in now.
And does that
quite last minute?
Can I ask you about
trying to explain the new thing?
The previously looked after, that includes children who are now under special guardianship arrangements, doesn't it, as well?
Yes. If you were adopted from care or you're on a special guardianship order or child arrangements order from care, then you're covered under VSH and DT and the designated teachers. And unlike the People Premium Plus, it's not limited to England and Wales. So People Premium Plus, you can only get it in schools in England and only if you've been adopted or gone to permanence from care in England or Wales. But the virtual school head role and the designated teacher role can include internationally adopted children, which is great. Which is
a big step because they're the sort of the hidden world of adoption, isn't it, in some regards?
Yeah. So we're pushing forward on some of these aspects. So it was really to stop a minute, find out what's been done, what still needs to be done, where we're up to, and to go back again to the adoptive families who are members of Adoption UK and who are not actually, and to ask them where they are up to now and where their children are up to. And the focus this time for this report was about mental health and well-being, really, because there's really incontrovertible evidence from years of research that anybody, not just children, but when anybody feels good and is in a good place emotionally and socially and with the mental health, they do better at whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah.
And so, and this is shown to be reciprocal in schools. If children feel good, they do better. If they do better, they feel better. And so because they feel better, they do better, and so on and so on. And so what I think we saw from the survey results that we got was that there's a significant number of children that they don't feel good for a start. They're not emotionally and socially being well catered for, and they're also not achieving academically. So none of the things that are going to get them on that upward cycle of progress are happening for them. They're falling behind academically, and GCSE and Key Stage 2 results year after year show this is true. And also they self-report, because this survey went out to adopted children and young people, so we had nearly 2,000 respondents of actual adopted children and young people in school, and their report on how they felt about school was not very encouraging, really. That in general, I think it was something. Honestly, I'd like to have the figures to hand, but I don't.
P for preparation.
It's called Bridging the Gap. I've got it. I've got the report in my hand, but it'll take me a minute to flick through to the actual.
But there's also people can sign as well. What's the point of the signature thing? Because I saw that people are pushing that. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, what we're doing is gaining momentum for a campaign, really. We want to make a huge amount of noise so that we're completely impossible to ignore. We want to show that this is not about a tiny number of children in a tiny number of schools, because what's really and what comes up again and again when we talk about it on social media or we talk about it anywhere else is that straight away somebody will come and say, yes, and looked after children, what about looked after children as well, and what about children in this circumstance and that circumstance? And our answer is yes, this includes those children as well, all the children who've experienced adverse childhood experiences, all the children who are in need right now, looked after children, previously looked after children, all of these children that have experienced any kind of trauma, whether that's happening now and it's a live issue, it's a crisis, or whether it's happened in their early childhood, it impacts their ability to learn and do well at school. And so we're really trying to make an enormous amount of noise. Now at Adoption UK, we have a voice. We have a voice as an organisation, but more important than that, we gather the voices of all of our members, and that's thousands and thousands of adoptive families.
That's really exciting, isn't it? Potentially, because I was talking to someone today. We were talking about the number of children who've got SEND, special educational needs and disability, and they're saying about 25%. So that's 11 million children. So you're talking nearly at least 3 million children who in some way are vulnerable within a school environment. And you think, if we could harness the power, I mean, adopters are the very tip of the iceberg, aren't we? How many children under 16 are adopted? Is it about 17?
Well, we don't know, but we do know that 42,500 children are currently declared as eligible for pupil premium plus in England alone.
Right.
Right now, the DfE estimates that at secondary school that self-declaration rate may be as low as only 30%. So it's probably thousands more than that.
Yeah.
So I'd say 55 to 60,000 will be a low estimate.
Yeah.
Of adopted children.
And we
of PP plus eligible children.
Yeah. And I was looking at the figures because I'm dull like that. I was looking at the figures for special guardianship children, and they are, was it 400% they've increased over the last 4 years?
Yeah.
So they're comparable.
And then you add to that, there's about 58,000 looked after children in school at any one time.
Yeah.
So you're straight into it. But more than that, 50% of children will experience at least one adverse childhood experience.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, it's frightening, isn't it? Really, when you look at any sort of class of 30 children, you go, which ones are the using my fingers for inverted commas? Who are the normal ones? Which ones are the ones that are sailing through life with no adversity or no challenge in their life? It's just a nonsense, really, isn't it?
I think a lot of children at some point in their career will need extra support with their social emotional well-being. For children who have the key factor for children to be resilient in trauma is the relationships that surround them, the supportive relationships that surround them. So we know for children that don't have those supportive relationships, where the trauma is in those relationships, where they come from a background of neglect or that kind of thing, that they are more likely to have a lot more negative outcomes from their traumatic experiences. But even children who are in secure families, who haven't experienced any early trauma, who, are in heavy inverted commas, normal backgrounds, if they're experiencing a crisis now, they will need extra support. They will affect their learning, and it's completely obvious. If a child comes into school and they've suffered a bereavement over the weekend, you don't expect them to be on top form with their learning. That's just a given.
9 a.m. Monday morning, you're not expecting them to just hit the floor running because grandma or grandpa or even a rabbit, even you can have really strong attachments to pets. So can I ask the next question? Yeah. Go on. My next question really is, and this is a strategic one, which is probably, I don't know whether you can answer it, but is there links being made into these communities? Because my feeling is that if we all kind of join together, the SEND community, which is, you have specialist groups like Adoption UK is a specialist group. So you've got autism, you've got ADHD support groups, you've got children, you've got all kinds of cohorts. Who's pulling all these people together? Why aren't you doing it, Becky?
Yeah, me personally.
Personally, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. You should say that because when we did, this is something that but all of us that are working on this campaign really want to see happen. Right. Because the range of children that are affected by these issues in school, it goes far beyond, as you say, adoptive families. So when we did parliamentary launch of the Bridging the Gap report, we specifically invited and spoke to and had long conversations with representatives from, for instance, NISN, which is the National Association for Special Educational Needs, from mental health. You may have seen, if you've looked on social media, that groups as well, because we have approached those groups to say these are things that affect a lot of different children from different angles. We're all trying to say and do the same thing, and so we are working on partnerships within the sector, within the adoption and fostering sector, but also outside, more in the education sector, more generally in the mental health sector, and trying to bring people together and see if we can be of one voice with the need for trauma-informed practices in schools, really.
That's really encouraging. Scott, questions?
Why would I have any questions?
I really don't know what to say to that.
Quiet. Honestly, you're like Paxman tonight. You're on it. You're like, I'm like, I can't even get a word in between the two of you.
I've had a loopy week.
Over each other, blah blah blah. So I've just been sitting here filing my nails and reading the paper. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the most respectful way, but I'm afraid I see all the emails. I have all the conversations. So
all right, you fence the emails.
It's just off. Yeah. But the one thing I will say is just to kind of back up what Becky said there. The launch of the campaign and the report has been really well received, and the kind of the organisations, whether they're in the adoption sector or not, that have gotten behind this actually so far, it's been really, really encouraging actually from the off. And I think it's got the right people doing it. And what I mean by that is because the original campaign that we did, it was kind of the kickoff point. It didn't really get underneath the skin of the issue. And I think that that's what's happened now. And I think that that's, that's down to Sue, Alison and Becky as well, and as well as the other guys who write the report, David and what have you, who's probably done quite a lot of work on it as well, all behind the scenes. But I think that's what's contributed to its success this time, because actually it was just the right approach and it was the right message. And it's not, I mean it's not something that I've been involved in with the campaigning bit. But I see what work goes into it, and you just think, oh my days, seriously? Like, how many hours is in a day for you to actually be able to do this? So, it's not easy. And to do it successfully, so not to be the banging on the table with your fisty kind of campaign. This is all logical, and it's all, you're just doing it the right way, really. So.
Yeah, it is. It's a campaign of winning people's hearts and minds, isn't it? Rather than legislatively crushing people. But I mean, I still find school, I often feel like an absolute stranger. It's a world I don't really understand, and I've been a school governor, but I still feel that I'm speaking a different language, and that often I'm coming up against these paradigms of education versus, I'm social care. But as a parent even, you just think, so my hat goes off to you, Becky, because I think to step into that world and talk that language, the language of what Seth, and they talk about Seths and Piffs. And I used to be the one in the governor's meeting going, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, you were just there to make up the numbers, in fairness, weren't you?
I think I was there to make up the numbers. So.
To be fair, though, the language is, I mean, it is my world. It's what I did before I did some other things, but the language has changed inordinately since I was doing it. I've had a massive learning. Like, what is that progress 8? I'm sorry, I'm devastated because they've stopped recording 5 good grades at GCSE, and now I can't compare any of the figures. It's making my little nerd heart cry. But that's how that goes.
But because you go in as an educational, as somebody who's worked in education, does that open the door slightly, or does it kind of, you go, I was a teacher, I get it? Does that help?
Help be able to, not just to be able to say that I was a teacher, but to actually have been a teacher. I know that sounds like a fine distinction, but I really do remember how difficult it is being given all that anymore at the start of the year and being told these are all the children with special needs in all of your classes, learn these IEPs, and you're like, I'm teaching 200 and something children this year, you've just given me 40 IEPs.
What's an IEP? Sorry, what's an IEP?
Well, it's what we used to call an individual education plan.
Right.
I'm not sure if they're really called that anymore, but it was basically what the special needs provision in school was going to be for those individual children. And what was weird about it from my perspective was that I, of course, was a music teacher, so the IEPs usually bore just have nothing to do with anything that I'd be like, oh, they've got to practice number bonds to 10. Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely do that while we're learning Jingle Bells and the Glockenspiel. Yeah. We'll put some effort in. There was a lot. So it's very difficult. And I think, so it's not just being able to say that, it's knowing, it's remembering the feeling of being standing in front of 30 teenagers with 30 sets of differing needs that you're supposed to know about. And it's remembering the feeling of yet another government directive saying you have to do this, you have to do that, and how crushing that sometimes feels. And it's remembering the feeling of turning the news on at night and hearing that, well, schools should be teaching children this and schools should be teaching children that, and all the millions of things that schools are apparently meant to be teaching children, as if it's not enough that we educate them on the national curriculum. We also have to teach them, to teach the driving theory test, or how to write a check, or that was a long time ago, or how to, all these life skills. But why are the schools not teaching this? And it's like, well, you've got to be kidding. There is already a curriculum in place. If you want us to teach that, you need to drop something else. What are you going to drop?
But it's
and so when we come with our thing of can you please be trauma informed,
While you're on,
I at least know how it feels to have yet another person coming with yet another thing that you're all supposed to be remembering and doing all the time. And I think it helps me to create a message for teachers, which is not you must change what you teach, or even you must change the way you deliver your lesson in the classroom, because that it often comes down to a debate about that. Well, I like, there's like this in teaching, there's what they call a traditional versus progressive teaching debate.
Oh.
Shall we have worksheets, or shall we do it in groups, or whatever? It's not about that either. It's about the relationships that you have with the children and a whole school approach to managing those relationships and managing behaviour and managing all of the stuff that goes on around that, while still delivering your subject matter in your lesson in the way that you want to, and not having that changed, which is a message for teachers, really.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult to go to schools and say, can you do this, without it sounding like a massive criticism. But sometimes criticism is necessary, because sometimes things need to be criticised. But in general, we really need educators to grasp the fundamental truth of what's being said and then run with it. Because I think that once teachers get this, they will know what to do next, because that's what teachers do. If you show a teacher what dyslexia is and explain it to them and explain the difficulty the child is having, their job then is to find solutions to that. If that means bringing someone else in or getting a resource or doing things a different way, that's what teachers do all day long. But it's getting these things accepted as being real and getting the foundational training in, and then giving teachers some opportunity to put into practice what they've learned, while being thoroughly supported by the senior leadership team of the school, because without that support, you can't go anywhere, really.
You clearly No, you clearly have a good understanding of it, and it is a unique profession in that, the Prime Minister will get up in the House of Commons and say something about education, and then 3 weeks later, there's a memo on your desk: this has got to happen, which doesn't happen in many of our professions, does it?
No, I don't think so.
That it's not that politicized.
And I think everyone thinks they know what being a teacher's like because they all went to school, and actually, being a pupil in school it doesn't give you any understanding of what being a teacher is like. And so people are really quick to judge teachers and say things about them and have an opinion about education based on the fact that they once went to school. Most teachers that I meet, when I have conversations with teachers in person, the conversations go like this: "Oh, Becky, can you help me? There's a little boy or girl in my class who's adopted or living with foster carers or whatever, and this is happening, that's happening, and I don't know what to do, and I just want to help them, and I don't know what to do, and I think they're going to get excluded, and can you help me can you give me some strategy that I can use? I think I speak to a lot of teachers who recognise there's a massive issue, have got no strategies whatsoever to use, don't understand where it's coming from, really, and want help and support. Yeah. And it's not always forthcoming for them either. And I know that for some teachers, they then experience like massive burnout and stress, because actually a lot of teachers, they really care about the kids and want to do right by them. And when they can't for whatever reason, it brings them down as well. So I really want to go out to teachers with a positive, as you said earlier, not like banging my fist on the desk and saying you're doing it all wrong, but to try and go out with a positive message of like, look, this is challenging. It's challenging for you as much as it is for the parents. Let's try and work together and see if we can find a better way.
Oh, that's beautiful. Tell me, I know, fantastic. Were you a good teacher?
Oh, crumbs, I don't know. You need to ask my pupils.
Okay. Tell me your funniest teacher story.
Oh, loads. Oh, my word. Oh, the first school I taught at, the first year I taught, in my first term of teaching, I think, a child climbed out the window and ran away down the field.
It's the glockenspiel moment.
Yeah, it's great. Music teaching is hilarious. It's just full of, and it's a different environment of teaching, I think, music as well, because it's so crazy and ridiculous. I
have to say that my music teacher at school was absolutely mad as a box of frogs. Yeah. And I learned absolutely nothing in all 4 years I did music, but I had the best time.
You enjoyed yourself. That's all that matters.
It's funny because the first job that I got after I graduated, the head of department basically said to me, she said, look, this is our philosophy. We believe that music is a subject unlike any other subject in the school. It's a leveller. She said children that could be top of the class in maths could come to music and not have a clue. Not be able to do any of it.
True.
And children that are like in the bottom set, because this was a big 2,000 pupil school. It had 9 sets, and you were put in your set in year 7, and then you stayed in that set for every lesson. So if you're in the bottom set for maths, you were in the bottom set for everything. Didn't matter how good you were at it.
Happy days.
And then we'll get children in the bottom set. I know it's awful. Oh, this is 20 years ago. I sincerely hope that doesn't happen anymore. But your children from the bottom set, so set 9 of 9, will turn up for music, and some of them in there will be really great musicians. They won't be able to shine in any other subject, but they'll be able to be great at music, because a lot of the skills that other subjects require, their brilliant reading skills that they might not have, and numeracy skills. In music, none of that needs to matter. You can do well in music. And so she had that philosophy from the start for me, and I really hung on to that. That we would have the school orchestra, and it would have children from every set of the 9 sets.
So please tell me that you put on a full production of Les Miserables for your whole school with barricades and everything. Did you do whole school performances? You must tell me this.
We did whole school performances. We did mainly because after that I taught at an all-through school from 3 to 16, and it was nativities. I'm not joking. Wow. I've done 12 nativities. 12 nativities.
Your face is the woman, like you look literally traumatized as you say that.
Yeah, because really, by about the 5th nativity, you're just like,
Shepherd.
Is there any possible way we can make this nativity not exactly the same as all the other nativities? I can't face the identical same nativity.
Go for a progressive nativity.
Some kind of,
Yeah.
Here's the spider in the stable, and here's the 3-toed sloth, and here's the
same-sex nativity. Oh my goodness, that was the end of her career. An Anglican jihad.
Yeah, we'd do shows, and little boys do strange things. Well, I won't go into that in too much detail, but we had quite an interesting little boy action on stage. Little boys do things when they get nervous, don't they? And so there was some of that.
And big boys, don't they, Scott?
Well, I would like to comment.
No, Scott's eating his dinner. What are you doing?
No, do you know what I'm eating?
What are you eating?
Scott's got a massive chocolate bar, everybody.
Yeah, it's as big as his head.
Chocolate. He's showing it us and not sharing it at all.
That's so mean.
Outrageous.
We need one of those Wonka TVs where we can pull it out.
Yeah. We do.
But I think we've done education to death. We'll come back to that. I do.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to mention that we are now all in wind down, aren't we? This week, because it's the last full week of school term in most places.
Yeah.
Twitter is ablaze.
So,
not me though. I've got plans. I've got things to do over the summer, ready for September.
You're making fancies for your wedding.
Becky, but I was hoping that you might give some strategies for starting in September for all these parents out there who are angst already thinking about the summer holidays.
Transition
and getting
tips.
to September. Yeah. So what's your top 5 tips, Becky? Come on.
Top 5 tips.
I was going to say top 50, but I thought we've not got all night. So.
Transitioning from, okay. Well, most of them you would have had to have started them already, so it's a bit late, this advice now, really, because really, if you've come to the term and you haven't done any, it's a bit of a thing.
About it.
Bit of countdown music.
Well, I would say if you change in school, thinking about children going from year 6 to year 7, or changing from one school to another over the summer holidays, this is a really small thing, but go to the school using the transport that you'll use to get to the school. This is just, if you're going to drive them there,
Practice
walk with them up the path, walk with them to the door. If they're going to go on the bus, go with them on the bus, do all that. That kind of thing. I'd try and get the school or new teacher to send photographs of everything possible so that you can look at them over the holidays. That can often be helpful. If you can get the new class teacher to send a postcard or something that's checking in, that can be really helpful. I would make sure that all the information that the new teacher will need to know about your child, you have it presented in order to give to them. You could cry into your pillow a little bit. You could consume vast amounts of chocolates. That's obviously the way that Scott's going. I would say some little things like if you're, particularly for children that are changing school and getting a new uniform, get it early and then check it out for sensory annoyances.
Good one.
Because the first day of school, let's put uniform on all these, the label on this shirt is unbearable and I can't leave the house now and I have to have a meltdown. It's just additional stress.
It's like my first day at work.
Or make sure that you don't buy it, like, especially boys between year 6 and year 7, they tend to grow between year 6 and year 7. So, I remember Jacob going into year 7 in September, putting his trousers on, sitting on the sofa, and he split the hold on. Because he'd grown that much over the summer holidays, and then he put the other pair on and did exactly the same. So
nice.
Like 20 minutes till he started his new school, running up to Tesco's to get
like
bigger pairs
Basil
of trousers
Fawlty.
for him.
Oh my life! Well, different kids have got different things, haven't they? But if your child has got, if you know your child has got sensory needs, road testing the uniform beforehand is probably a good idea, just to avoid those last minute traumas. But it's all about preparation, really, isn't it? Like anything else, if you've got traumatized little ones and you're going to take them somewhere new, what do you do? Social stories to talk them through it. Try and get to see if they can get to know somebody else that goes to the school or is going to be in that class and spend some time together. I think a lot of adoptive parents, if they recognise that this is going to be an issue, they're going to be able to come up with some really good strategies themselves. But those are some.
It's sort of plan ahead, think it through.
Good.
Yeah.
It's so wise. You should like head some sort of national school thing, shouldn't you? That's what you should do. Yeah.
You should run a campaign
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
What I should do is send out surveys and write really nerdy, really excellent. Sorry, not nerdy. I shouldn't say that. No, I should send out surveys and crunch the numbers in a nerdy fashion and make a beautiful spreadsheet and then write reports. So
Did you write all of that report? Because I've read it.
Yes, basically.
Wow.
With
kudos.
A massive team of editors going. Can we change that? There was. I wrote the report. Then there was quite some editing. But it's
you have to take the accent off it, you see.
Yeah. Well, this was a problem at the Today programme. They had to bring in the northern microphones.
Bayek is like. That's once they'd got you off Tony Blair, get Tony Blair out of a headlock.
Yeah.
Was it John Howard?
No, there was a team. It was basically me that originally wrote it, and then there was a team of people came in and polished it, helped me to polish it to make it a thing.
Well, I'm going to use that as a segue into the fact that the CPV report that Dr. Wendy and I have written is now complete. It is complete and done.
Yay!
But we've hit a real...
And available where?
Well, we've hit a snag. Because it's going to go out on Amazon. But with the ITV, because, I'm not as important as you, want to do a thing about it, and I'm not sure where it's going. But they can't show it until a certain day, so it's going to come out next week. Today's Wednesday, so it's going to come out next week. So I'm infinitely frustrated because there's so many things I want to say, but I can't say because Dr. Wendy's put me under an embargo and she's microchipped my head.
I have the same. I had the same. I get people phoning me up at work going, have you got any statistics I can use for this? And I was like, yeah, but I can't tell you until can't tell you until June the 23rd or whenever it was.
It's crazy. It's got 55,000 words, 19 recommendations, and Dr. Wendy says that we're going to be run out of town with pitchforks because we're going to upset everyone. But that's exciting, isn't it?
Why 19 recommendations? Why didn't you not just add another one in there for good luck?
Right, let's imagine...
That's going to do my head in.
Put one in for good luck.
Just a chance in one, just say and pay adopters £5,000 a year to actually pay for their own support and therapy.
Recommendation 20, be nice to each other. No, I think if when you consider who wrote the recommendations out of the report... You'd probably be able to work out why there's 19 and not 20, because it was me. And I'm inept.
And you couldn't count.
I can't
count. You got to 20 and then I went to print, yeah?
Well, no, I did them as bullet points, not... Anyway, a bit rubbish.
55,000 words is a book. Al, you've written a book.
Well, Dr. Wendy's written 99.9% of it. And wow, she said, this is like a PhD. And I went, no, it is a PhD. And it is just... Some of it is quite nuanced, but we've just drawn in this whole pool of other people. As I was saying, 25% of children have SEND, and we're kind of...
Yeah.
And what I can't say. Oh, anyway.
You can't, but you have to tell us all about it. We'll do a podcast. Listen, I'm going to have to go because
thank
of
heavens.
all the reasons. So I know normally I'll chatter to you for an hour and a half, but
Yeah, well, we know we've got
No, I
competition now, so.
Yeah.
well, basically, not to put too fine a point in it, my fiance is sat in the next room in a darkened room waiting,
Oh, bless him.
for this to be over because I told him it would be between 8 and 9, and it's now 10 to 10.
Does he have a name?
Well-
Can we have? Does he have a name? Can we use it?
He does have a name.
Is he happy for his name to be used?
Hey, can I tell them your name? He said, yeah. He's called David.
David. I was going to guess David. I was so going to
David
guess.
the Becky in
Dave.
a tree. K-I-S-S-I-N-G. First come love, second
Not in a
marriage.
tree. I'm 45
All right, done a while there. I don't know, whatever.
Whatever.
on a comfy chair.
They don't have trees in Yorkshire. Well,
Yorkshire. She doesn't live in Yorkshire.
I'm not from Yorkshire. Get yourself sorted
God.
out.
It's all
Get
all the
bloody
south, isn't it?
Map. It's all the south.
It is south. Oh well, Becky, thank you for coming on and give our love.
Oh, can I just? This is happening.
Oh,
Oh,
he's brought.
This
yeah.
is Engaged Live.
He's a keeper.
Yeah, he's bringing coffees and malt loaf in.
That
Refreshments have arrived.
he is living the dream. So now you've had
Look at that.
chocolate, you've had malt loaf,
Mm.
and I've got what? Nothing. I hate you all.
Mm.
Well,
Got your shed.
I've got
Yeah,
my shell.
exactly.
Got
You've got
your
your
axe.
axes.
Yeah, I got my axes. Oh well, have a champion. We'll stay on the line and chat because I've got some stuff
We
to
will.
go.
We'll talk about you.
Yeah, behind your back. So I'll say goodbye to you then. Bye, Becky.
It's been lovely to speak
Oh,
to you
yeah.
both. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Congratulations
Dave.
again.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, Dave.
Bye.
Dave. Oh, has she gone yet? Wow. Wasn't that
Wow.
exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, wasn't it?
Wasn't it?
What an edit you've got to do on that.
No, I'm just going to put it out exactly.
All that
as
information
is.
she shared.
I know she's so wise in the ways of things. Do you know what? I think we should stop having her on because she does make us look like half-wits. Basically.
She's going to be off having babies and things, so don't worry about her. She'll be too busy.
I'm not even going there with that conversation. I'm not going there at
Oh,
all.
yeah. Now, what was that I read the other day?
What,
Because dear listeners, if you don't know, which you should,
dear listeners?
Al is going to become a grandparent very shortly, in the next maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
4 weeks, that's the plan. Apparently.
Yeah. No, well, babies don't keep to plan, really, do they? And I saw a thing on Facebook today
There's a...
that Mrs. C had posted about taking daughter to antenatal and blah, blah, blah.
Take your phone away from the microphone. It's making it go biz, biz, biz.
Oh, is it? Oh, I do apologise.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Mrs. C shared something on Facebook about the fact that she took daughter to antenatal.
Yes.
And you said something about... and I'm trying to find it because it was actually very funny. It made me laugh out loud. And when I say laugh out loud, I mean really laugh out loud. So I'm not going to share more, but I attended an antenatal class tonight, and to our surprise, it was actually on. We had a one-to-one with the midwife, blah, 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 blah. Aren't ladies' bodies amazing? To which Al comments, tire levers, a tub of Vaseline, and the Dyson. Boom. No, I'm actually giggling with laughter now, and you are as well. How could you put that? That's your daughter, Al.
Did my words paint a picture?
Yeah, it did paint a picture as well. I just had this thing of the midwife with the Dyson in her hand going, don't you worry, hen, this will be all right.
This might sting a bit. Oh, you bugs
It's
are
as
like...
bad as a sweep conversation.
Oh, don't even go there.
Anyway.
It's like Pregnancy Watch and the Adoption and Fostering podcast. It seems like the most inappropriate intermission to have. I could possibly...
But actually, we can laugh about it because, let's face it,
It's not
probably
us.
The likelihood is the majority of us haven't had to go through it. So
Yeah, true.
majority.
I can speak personally and say I have not.
As can I.
Excellent.
Anyway,
I saw on Twitter a couple of weeks ago that you took up the offer of getting a book to read about fostering and adoption, LGBT fostering and adoption. Have you got the book?
LGBT fostering adoption.
Yeah, there was a book. Someone said, "Hey, look at this cool book," and you went, "I'll review it." And the person said,
Oh yes, I haven't received it yet.
"Have
Actually.
you not?" Oh.
No. JKP.
JKP. I got sent a book by about autism, which was fantastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never.
See, my books need to be a lot more simplistic than about things like that, because I just, a bit like yourself. I'm a bit worried about having to read your CPV report, because I think it's going to go.
Oh, there's a picture version that I've done for you.
Is there? That's fine then. Ladybird.
It's like a flick book.
You got pop-ups. Has it got pop-ups?
Pop-ups, yeah.
A fist comes and punches you in the face just to remind you.
Oh, there you go with the stereotypes. There you go. See, that's why we're not friends.
Well,
Yeah, so that's all going ahead, and I know I am up to the eyeballs with it, but it is just really exciting, and but you don't know how it's going to go because you think you've invested so much into it and you totally absorb into it. But as we were on the air there, I got a text from the good doctor saying, "So, do you fancy doing a TED talk?" And I went, "Yeah," and she went, "I'll sort it out." That's my life. Like, I need to do a TED talk right now. I'm off to York tomorrow to do this thing with the Adoption UK, which is really exciting.
I seem to be pulling you in for everything at the minute.
I know, I don't, and that's nothing to do with you, funnily enough. So that's exciting, doing the Adopter Resilience thing, which I'm probably going to turn into a proper online unit, I think. Or I might even make it into a book or something, I don't know. Like, I need to write another book. I'm trying to look, I had a little list of things. Yeah, so that's that. And then at the end of the week, we're speaking to Sarah Fisher about NVR, aren't we? Which I'm really looking forward to. Because I have some really tricky questions. Because I was speaking to one of my friends who you know, who's an adopter, and she was talking about NVR, and she had some kind of quite interesting takes on it that were perhaps counter to, because it seems like everyone's seeing that as the wonder solution. But we'll get to ask those questions.
It's one of those things, isn't it? There is conflicts in it within it.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I actually like a lot of the NVR stuff, but not some of it.
All right. Well, right. So you've got to put on your brave head and ask those questions on when you speak to her. Put your brave head on.
Me, I don't like to be brave. I like to just be witty and
go with the flow, witty and
banterish.
With your boyish good looks and all that. Well, I think we should call it a day, call it a night. Is there anything else you wanted to, anything in your little list of things you wanted to share with the group?
There's loads I need to share with the group, but I'm not going to tonight because
your therapist says that you've.
Well, what I would say though is, and it is something that I do feel that I need to share actually, and it's on the back of the CBV thing actually, because obviously a couple of weeks ago we had quite a massive blowout where we had to have the constabulary round.
All right.
And I know that's something that we've talked about when we've spoken publicly in the past, and we're all good at the minute, so that's fine. But what I would say is actually I have now got first-hand experience of how useful they can be, because we got a call today from Children's Services, and it was really positive actually. It was a really positive call.
That's great.
It's not going to change anything because we're already doing what, but the police themselves have been really, really useful on the CPV front. So, and there's now a marker on our house as well. So
that's good.
Which is amazing. So I just wanted to share that just to say, that when it happens, just go with it. You'll feel like absolute crap to begin with, but it really does help. And if you've got an amazing police force, then like we have, then
And there's some really good evidence. Work on resilience. There's lots of theories and models about resilience, but one of them is by a guy called Rutter. I think it's a person called Rutter, and they talk about being steeled by experience. So actually, like you say, and that initially that is like just whoa, this is a place. You hear about people going there with stuff. I don't want to go there. I go there, and then actually it's not. It's okay. And so it takes away the fear of going there again. And so there's an element of you feeling like, actually, if we have to call them again, actually, it could be okay. And so there's an element of you becoming more resilient through adverse experience and like post-traumatic growth. There you are. There's a phrase for you. Post-traumatic growth. Yeah. Anywho.
And interestingly as well, the behaviour has been very different since the police visit. So
yes.
Which is always very interesting. I mean, how long it'll last is anybody's guess, but we're taking it.
No, but I think I don't know whether well, no, it is something I've not necessarily said, but I think that the nuance is that the police bring something very different to the party, because the police they have a duty to safeguard everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So that they come, and the language they use is different, but they talk in terms of what is legal, and they talk about reasonable chastisement. And so often they will not. That's not beating your kids and saying that's reasonable. What it is, it's empowering parents. What you're doing as a parent is reasonable in this context. And social care is oftentimes saying, this child feels sad because you are cross. And it's child focused, which is right. They should be child focused. But I think they bring, my experiences and talking to people is that often they feel disempowered by social care as parents, but they feel empowered by the police as parents.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I think that nuance is really important, because what I know, and I won't tell the stories, but I know people who've experienced is that once social care became involved, any sense of empowerment that they had was removed, which then escalated the whole system, the whole situation, to a point it was the first step on the descent. And the police have often been the ones that have gone, no, actually, this behaviour is not acceptable. And as a parent, you are reasonable in saying no or stopping them or something. Well, that got very serious very quick.
It did,
didn't it?
yeah.
Wow.
I think where we should end on this podcast, because, like we said, it is the summer holidays this week and next week. And we are going to continue over the summer recording for your very pleasure, dear listeners, so that you have something, so you have a little bit of additional self-care over the summer. I will be in a sunbed for 2.5 weeks, but apart from that, that's my self-care. So really wishing everybody the best for the next few days with school and transitions into different years.
Good luck with
schools.
all that stuff.
And stick with us over the summer, and we will hope to bring you some laughter, some joy, and and happy holidays, everybody.
Rest assured, I've got my tub of Vaseline on hand, my tile leavers, my Hoover.
Your Dyson.
My Dyson is plugged in. The battery.
I'm really, because I know we're coming up to you next month, and seriously, if she goes into labour, we're going to have to find a big cork somewhere, because
Whoa!
Me and Mrs. C have got plans for.
Well, do you know what? I told you this, but I said to her, you know what? I said, I have this feeling that Scott's going to walk through our door, and her door. What is it going to break? And she looked at it, and I thought that was like a funny thing, and we'd go, "Oh, wouldn't that be a thing?" Like it was. And she went, "That's not funny. I can't believe." She said, "I can't believe you said that." I said, "It was a joke." She went,
"She's going to worry now when I come."
She said, and she got really stern with me. She said, "That is so not funny." It's like, why have you said that to me? And I said, it's a joke. I'm not actually going to make it happen. No. I'm not going to be.
Well, I mean, has she seen the tile levers, Dyson, and Vaseline bit then? Because seriously, the poor love. It's no wonder they're affected. Honestly, being brought by a father like you.
Oh, I'm a gruff individual.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway. Right. Okay. Well, you look after yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.
We'll start soon. Bye.
Hang on. And if anyone's listening and they are bored, go to iTunes, put on a cracking review for us. 5 stars. Say something funny, like they prattle on too much, but we love it. Yeah. Something funny. So please go to iTunes, put a review on, because basically
get our ratings up, because we want awards for this free stuff that we give you.
Yeah. Did you not get yours? Oh no, sorry.
I'm no BE. No
BE. MBE, no BE. Okay, well, look after yourself, and
bye.
Bye. That was a very abrupt ending. I'll say it felt like too abrupt. So, bye, Scott. Have a great week. That was a better ending.
Have a great week. Yes. Love you all. Bye.
Bye. Love too much. Can we pull back on the love?
Have I gone too much over?
That's too much. Too much now.
Sorry, that's the chocolate. That's the sugar in the chocolate. It's getting me fuzzy.
Well, Scott, have a great week. Look after yourself. Top work.
And you, Al. Goodbye.
Yeah. like to speak to you. Is it okay to speak to you about your nuptials?
Yeah. That's it. Oh, it just sounds weird.
Yeah, keep
mine. That's better, isn't it? Well,
that's much better. That is much better. And I will. And is it okay to talk to you about the equal chance thing as well, and being on Radio 4 and general chit chat? Shall we just go as long as we can, and then you'll have to go because your fiance's calling from the balcony. Anyway, right, here we go.
Like, I'm not kidding. I mean, I love you guys a lot, but
what?
But what?
Given the choice of the evening with you or the evening with the fiance, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, but listen, love. After 20 years, you'll be saying something different. You'll be much preferring to come out with us. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But I'll be 65 then, so it'll be a bit,
Well, okay.
I'll be 40.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, all right.
In your dreams, right? Yeah.